It's what? It's 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, the 26th. Uh, Unlike usual, I did a little bit of playing over the weekend around working on the bus, and I managed to cap out my Feybuckler life. And I kind of wanted to share it with you guys because so many people have asked me on this one. And the whole point of this particular life was to revisit the Feybuckler build and see what it was like for 2020 here in DDO land. So I actually, even though it looks like I'm actually in game, I'm not currently in game on the screen that you're seeing. This is actually a pre-level 20 screenshot that I'll be posting with the build. And yes, we'll kind of go through this just a little bit, talk about the things like I usually do. Then we'll take a quick second look at it post Epic Destinies, still at level 20. So the build is 12 Warlock, 5 Bard, 3 Fighter. Get quite a few goodies out of this split in general here. Let me pull up the main window. From Warlock in particular, you're picking up your Eldritch Blast is at 46. Your pack save bonus goes up to +3. In my case, it happens to be Reflex because we are Fey. And then we're picking up this, what is it, 5 extra MMR? If I remember correctly. Yeah, 5 extra MMR, which is sweet. Which gives us a total of extra 20 MMR, I guess, if I read the rest of that correctly. It also gives us just 1 4th level spell, which I misread somewhere along the line. But we have quite... Oh, sorry. That's and the pack damage goes up to 64. So it's actually quite a bit of like damage off of the aura for the 12 Warlock levels. So you pick up a couple of interesting and semi-key spells that we'll talk about a little bit later. But the passive benefits from the aura, or from being a Warlock, are really kick in. Of course, we already talked about the Bard. The 5 levels of Bard is so good to kind of do a little bit of a hard carry. Most of that comes from the enhancement line, but you do still pick up 4 first level spells, some second level spells. Bardic Inspiration, Fascinate, stuff like that kind of kicks in. And then 3 levels of Fighter, we're picking up a couple of feats. We're technically picking up a heavy armor training, I guess, and some base attack bonus, which does come in handy as we level up here. All right, so let's go back to our previous page so we can kind of look at it together. So we have 33 points in Swashbuckler. I pretty much would go with this in the post level 20 world, except I would retrain out the deflect arrows enhancement here, and I would probably go ahead and either put it in a 5% Bard movement speed, or I would see if I could like go ahead and max out my double strike % chance. Either way, I think it would work out really well. It's probably a little bit better to take the 5% or the extra double strike chance, but can't ever go wrong with being just a little bit faster. The reason why I do that is at level 20 I actually put the last few points that we have available into the Knife Fighter tree, and actually we can look at this one over here. Go look at this and bring them up in the game. The last few points over here in the Knife Fighter tree, the second core gives you deflect arrows feat. So, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, but this core also gives you 5% movement speed, or sorry, speed with throwing daggers, which has some nice benefits a little bit later if you need to be ranged for a little bit. So I went ahead and I take it here. You could save that point and put it someplace else if you would rather. And just go ahead and take deflect arrows here. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I would probably retrain out and take the extra double strike over here in the Swashbuckler tree in the post level 20 world. The other nice thing over here in the Knife Fighter tree that we're picking up late is we're picking up an extra 6 MMR and PRR. It's kind of important to take note of. We are also picking up an extra +1 to hit and daggers, which is, it's good. And this one only costs 1 point. unlike the rest of them afterwards are 2 points. So we didn't really like lose anything to make that happen. There's not really anything else over here that we're like dying to have, I don't think. In the Night Fighter tree, it's possible that the weapon versatility is good if you find yourself throwing a lot of daggers, but you've maxed out or have a bunch of melee power, which I think we'll look at in a little bit, and I think we'll have more melee power than range, but I don't think it matters that much at the end of the day. Of course, our second most important tree is the Enlightened Spirit. Over here we have 22 points spent in the tree. Actually, compared to our first go around, this is stripped down quite a bit. When I first did these builds, I wanted to maximize the amount of damage that the aura did and that my Eldritch Burst would do. And that was a sign of the times, where now I want to kind of increase my crit opportunities and my double strike opportunities to maximize my melee damage. I really found that kind of works out. It's part of the reason why we're doing the Knife Fighter thing. Even though daggers are not like the best weapon possible, it's probably not even close. But when you basically have 100% double strike or this really huge double strike all the time, I feel like it makes up, especially when you have such a huge crit opportunity to do that. The other big changes are in the Stalwart Defender tree. We were able to pick up the 20% competence bonus to maximum hit points. This could also be the bonus to the Constitution score. The bonus to the Constitution score has a nice advantage of working with your Brilliance to give you some extra temporary hit points. So I could see going that route instead. I feel like you're going to get a little bit more hit points out of the way with the Stalwart Defense, but I'm going to be honest, I haven't crushed the numbers. But again, keep in mind all this, except for the Knife Fighter stuff, the last 5 points in the tree, I go ahead and level up through here. So all the way. So this 20% hit points literally is the second to last thing that I got. This is what I took at level 19, or with my level 19, were these Tenacious Defense ranks. So I just don't get that much experience with them as we're leveling up. Also, it's kind of cool is we get to pick up some extra saving throws. Saving throws are pretty good to have, and we'll be taking a bigger look at those pretty soon. A little bit extra dodge in the Stalwart Defense Mastery, and a little bit extra hate. These could be combined either into more dodge or more hate. It's kind of up to you. I split them mostly just for the requirements here for the extra saving throws. But then I needed one more point to be able to get up here to the Tenacious Defense, and I split them. Most of the time I'm solo, so I don't really feel like I need the extra threat all that often. But when I happened to be leveling up and using this point, I was actually playing with 3 or 4 people at the time. So having that little extra hate generation was really good. Something I ended up taking this life that I haven't taken before, and I actually found myself really liking it, is just these 4 points in the Tainted Scholar tree for the Feign Health. So often you slam like a Rage or a Haste, and you're picking up some hit points. Or because you only have 2nd level Bard spells and we're firing off Cure Moderate Wounds. Cure Moderate Wounds essentially does this massive extra pile of temporary hit points, as well as whatever we actually end up healing for. So I actually found that to be really helpful for healing. I'm air quoting here if you're just listening. Air quoting extra healing if you are in Reaper. I personally found that to be really helpful. That's basically where my primary points were spent. I put things on Front Street for you guys like I always do. I do have 11 points. It'll be 12 after this life for racial points. But honestly, the ASMR didn't provide that much for me that I found to be useful. And after like level 6 when I actually did pick up the Warlock levels. So what it was for me was the extra +3 to fight, to hit and damage against evil creatures with Fight the Wicked Chain, 20% healing, 20 points of positive healing, and of course a few extra saving throws. We did end up getting one more charisma point out of the deal as well, but it kind of worked out this way. I could understand pulling out a couple of Fight the Wickeds if you wanted to pick up another charisma point over here, but you're spending 3 action points to pick up basically 1 damage when you look at our final stats. Let me pull up the previous picture on the level 20 stats. Oops. Oh my goodness. That's alright. I just realized that I've been moving around on my screen, but you guys couldn't see my arrow pointers here. Turn on this window over here while we're talking about the Ace of Archery. So we could pick up that point of charisma for 3 points, or we could just leave what the equivalent of 6 points in charisma would be for the damage against evil things. Against positive aligned things, who cares? Doesn't matter. Oh, let's see. Back to the picture here. Again, it's a little bit weird trying to do things with the picture, but it does shift pretty significantly from pre-enhancement or pre-Epic Destinies to post-Epic Destinies. My Reaper points I kind of left the same as we leveled up, kind of equally split between the 3 trees, with as much focus towards PRR and reflex saving throws as I could. Crammed every single point of charisma in as I could along the way, and then I went ahead and I took some strength stuff because I mentioned this numerous times, but we are still strength to hit even if we are charisma to damage. So we want to make sure that we have that opportunity to hit as much as possible, just to kind of straighten that out. At level 20, with our same gear that we've been using basically since level 15, maybe 16. I don't know off the top of my head if we had a gear swap at 16 or not. But we got to 122 PRR, standing out here in the marketplace next to the Fate Spinner, and 84 MMR, which seems pretty good to me. It feels pretty solid. Hit points 874. That's with the temporary hit points. So 834 hit points. Again, it seemed pretty reasonable to me. Rage, temporary hit points layered on, stuff like that. I feel like we had a pretty solid pile of hit points all the way through. And the saving throws don't seem that bad, especially when you factor in a GH instead of just an H, which I'm currently on the effect of a permanent H with my gear selection. All right, so let's take a look at it here in the post level 20 world, and then we'll talk about leveling up points. Whoa, not this button. All right, so our Epic Destinies over here, I'm not 100% sure this is correct, but it seems really solid to me. So we're in the Fate Singer. I took all of the points I could over here in these harmonic chords, except for the second one. The Inspire Confidence now grabs 2 to skills. I mean, you're still getting a big boost to your Intimidate. You're still getting a boost to your Spell Power, or Spell Sight. You're still getting a boost to your Perform skill. So it is still giving you a significant increase, but is it the best? I honestly don't know. I haven't actually played it very much at all, but it seems like it's good. Just to be able to move up, I did go ahead and take an extra point in Charisma. I also took the Full Things in Rain. The main reason why is because on a Vorpal Strike you get the extra Thunderclap damage, which seems really good. You also fire this off for an extra 60 temporary hit points, which can be very good. So I did put points in there. I took Aria for 2 reasons. Even though it does put in a threat decrease, but it's from casting spells, so hopefully it won't affect us that much. But it adds 40 sonic spell power, which is pretty good for 2 points. Because if you remember, over here in our Resonant Arms, we're doing extra sonic damage that increases with spell power, and so that fires off every time we crit. And then of course our aura also is doing sonic spell power because of our pack damage Fey. So we're getting a little extra damage in there, and I think it all kind of works out. Let's see. It's pretty obvious to take a Marshal him. Extra sneak attack dice, extra strength to increase our likelihood to hit. 20 maximum hit points, 10 more MMR PRR, and 10 melee and or range power. So again, those things kind of like work out for us. I also took the equivalent of bonus feats or bonus spender magics. So one of the things I've been complaining about this whole time was not having extend. Now I do. So haste, rage, true seeing. Anything else in particular? I guess the resistances and stuff like that, but we really don't care that much about those being extended. But you know, it's nice. It's a nice perk. No, I think that's primarily it, to be really honest. But now they're also all quickened, which is also really nice. And of course the capstone, 15 DRR, 4 charisma, 3 to hit, which 4 charisma is also a bunch of extra damage, as well as all this extra sonic and light damage added in here as well. So lots of nice perks over here for the tree. This is also giving extra melee power. It's also giving extra spell power. Same thing down here for saving throws. To build up this harmonic resonance thing. I think a little bit later we get an extra perk of that. We get some extra PRR, MMR. If they hit us, and again we're going to be slamming Intimidate a lot, so monsters are going to be trying to attack us, so now they are forced to dance. And then we don't really have to worry about arcane spell failure, but immune to charisma damage is good because it's very important, and again more to our universal spell power, which in some situations, depending on your gear, might make up for lacking of certain things. For twists, I did something that I don't know if I really love or not, but I'm going to try it out for a little bit and see. I do want meld because meld is just really good. But I did a 3, 3, 2, and 1 to also be able to take Grim Precision. With Grim Precision and a couple other things here and there, I believe we're something at like 66 according to the character. No, not movement. General combat. For fortification bypass, which is really important because we are a crit machine. That's what we're trying to do. So getting to actually crit something when you're doing crits damage, that's kind of important. Let's see, what else? Anything else like super important here? Oh yes, Legendary Shield Mastery gives us an extra 15 PRR and an extra 7% double strike, which is why I twisted this in instead of the Running with the Wind. If I had room to put them both in, I would. But because I need 2 more points to be able to twist it, to turn this Twist of Fate into a tier 2. No, that's not right. I need 5 points. Anyway, I don't quite have enough points to go 3, 3, 2, and 2. But if you do, I would recommend instead of Cocoon, go ahead and taking this, Running with the Wind, and really maximizing that double strike chance. Alright, so let's before we start comparing numbers out here, let's just step out here to the Barovia and hit our buffs and try to look at the actual numbers. Alright, so we fire off our rage, our haste, we fire up the marshal him. We fire up our Arya. We fire up our Rain. We don't need to hit our epic moment yet. What else am I missing? Anything? No, I think that's everything. So again, using our level 15 gear. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here that's not level 15 or lower gear. Possibly our swashbuckle is level 16. We are using level 16 swashbuckler, but everything else is the same that we've been using for ages. So 153 MMR and 97 PRR. I feel like we could probably increase that very easily with a little bit of gear upgrades. A level 20 swashbuckler would probably help a little bit. I don't know if there's anything else that really matters yet. It's not like we're giving up our Sharn set to increase our PRR there. So it basically is the swashbuckler that's going to make the big difference for us on that. So let's look at our double strike. Currently our double strike is 40. Again, remember we have several charges of our action boost, which could be, right now for me it's 10, but it could easily be 30. And also keep in mind, since we're using daggers and we go ahead and slam the rapid slash, that you can spam that pretty much all the time. So really we're talking 60 is our normal double strike, and then we could boost very easily to 90%, and of course Reaper's Memento if we want to pick it up a little bit higher. So yeah, easily can be able to rock that 100% double strike all the time post level 20. And honestly, we could actually do that for most of the time, or not most of the time, but a large portion of the time. I think starting around level 8 or 9, depending on how many points that you want to kind of spend. You do pick up, like I said, a little bit of extra double strike from the shield. You're picking up 7 there. That really makes a big difference. The other thing that really helps for us is the melee attack speed bonus. If you look at that thing, it's currently 48%, which is a pretty good number. Pretty good. Looking at our weapon power, we're at 892. So again, if you wanted to move some points around, you could make that range power when you're throwing daggers also come from melee damage. I think that could increase a little bit more also. I think we could probably get that to 100 with a little bit of tweaking. I'm not 100% sure. I don't play a whole lot in these epic levels, but it seems like a pretty good place to me to step out from level 18, level 19, and step into here at level 20. Let's see, anything else like gear wise that comes to mind? Not really. Yeah, so let's take a look at the various feats and stuff that we picked up along the way, so you can kind of see where I'm coming from. So we incentivized to take single weapon fighting early and shield mastery early, which means we had to keep an eye on our balance points and stuff like that. And then whenever possible, we basically took either single weapon fighting or the improved shield mastery. All those things they add into that double strike opportunity and that into that melee power. So those both seemed really strong to me. Like I said, we picked up precision very early on as well. I don't remember exactly how early. I was going to go through and try to figure out all of my feats, but I figured we'd just kind of touch them this way instead. As soon as I possibly could, which for improved critical, I think we were able to take at 12. Yeah, that sounds right to me. I'd have to go back and look, but we took improved critical as soon as we possibly could as well. That is 2 points of critical range with the dagger, so it works out really nicely. I took Magic Maximize early. That fires off for the Eldritch Burst. It fires off for your healing spells. That's all it really hits. I could see someone taking empower healing instead, but you have the spell points. I just don't use them that much. I could also see somebody taking extend early. I wouldn't put that past anybody either. But otherwise, if I remember correctly, at that range, we really didn't have a whole lot of other feats that we want to take. Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind? I think that's pretty much everything. I do have the ability to take this one, Completionist. So I take Completionist at 3. Again, it hits a lot of stuff. Plus the strength, plus the charisma. So we got both hits, plus the hit and plus the damage. We run a lot of skills, etc., etc. So it works out really nicely. So let's talk about leveling order for just a minute, and then we'll kind of get into what I thought overall were the strength and weaknesses of the build. I went ahead and I took my 3 bard levels. That gives me the opportunity to take Swashbuckler as quickly as possible. Then I took my 3 wizard level or warlock levels. That gave me the ability to turn on my aura, picked up the extra PRR and stuff like that all pretty quickly, and gave us access to a couple of low level spells. So these are my bard spells at the end of the day. These are my warlock spells at the end of the day. Do what you like with that. That was an amazing hit. That was a really good hit. Welcome to the USS Fat Halfling there. Bet you didn't know that you were recording a video, or I was recording a video, because I didn't tell anybody. Oh, I did. I started a stream, not recorded a video. Look at me. Welcome to USS Fat Halfling. I meant to just record this as a video. Alright, so let's see. I took my level 7 and level 8 is when I took the fighter levels. And with the fighter levels is where I was able to grab some of these extra combat feats that we talked about before. But really I just kind of took those to be able to start having the possibility to start hitting the Stalwart Defender, get our base attack bonus up for when we needed the base attack bonus for some of the other prerequisites, etc., etc. And then we took our next 2 bard levels. So keep in mind at that point we were 3 bard, 3 warlock, 2 fighter, then 5 bard, and then we took a couple of warlock levels, and we constantly compared the warlock levels to the fighter levels. I think we ended up taking like 2 more warlock levels, and then we took a fighter level. The only reason we took the 3rd fighter level specifically is when this was done, the Swashbuckler tree, and then the Enlightened Spirit tree. And then we wanted to start putting points over here into the Stalwart tree. Until then, the 3rd fighter level meant nothing to us, basically. But once we had the points that we could move into the Stalwart Defender tree and actually get the bonus from being in the defensive stance, then we jumped over. Then the rest is pretty easy. We just kept going up the Warlock tree, obviously, after that, and knocked it out. It was real smooth from there. So, strengths of the build. It's a fun combat style. Like, you get some AoE damage, you have a couple of spells at your disposal, you have a little bit of healing if you need it, you're giving out all sorts of temporary hit points, you have access to, like, basically everything you need to kind of play that style. Your Intimidate, what was my Intimidate? My Intimidate was 74, and I have 15 ranks put into it. I didn't even have the space to put all the points into it. I felt like it was very good. If I had just a little bit more wiggle room in my stats, I think I could have taken a little bit more intelligence and could have got it in there. We probably could have started with like a 10 dexterity maybe and got a few more intelligence points, and we could have maxed out Intimidate easily, because remember, Intimidate is a warlock enhancement or skill as well as a fighter, so pretty easy to work in. Perform and Spellcraft are both in the high 60s. at level 20 with, again, I may or may not have an item involved. I don't think so. I must have something. I must have a perform item stuck in here somewhere. And then I put too many points into UMD. This could have been rolled back a little bit pretty easily, and I could have taken a few more points into Intimidate. So yeah, fun play style. It allowed us to, like, I did R3s pretty much from level 3 until I was running an Explorer Zone at rank 94 to finish up. Sometimes it was just me and a hireling. Sometimes I had a couple of guests, like Gore joined us once or several times, and we had a couple other people hit us throughout the stream as well. So being able to go up there, slam the Intimidate button, fire off this AoE damage from the aura and stuff, get the attention, and feel like we have a pretty, like I said, our PRR pretty much always was in that 100-ish range. Well, it wasn't always, but it was always high enough, it seemed like, that we could sit there and tank whatever Reapers that we needed to tank, or champs or stuff like that. It doesn't mean we didn't die. We obviously did several times, more than like on a range character for sure. But a comment that I continuously got from this people watching the stream was soloing R3s on a melee. That's it. That's what this does. That is like huge for a build like this. Things that were kind of weird, right? Obviously being an ASMR is totally incorrect. I think a half-elf would be the ideal race for this build. Let me pull up the enhancement tree for the half-elf here really quickly, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. What am I looking for? Racial enhancements. Racial. It's here. There you go. Just couldn't find it. So you're going to get a couple of sweet ones here, right? You're going to pick up the... you're going to be able to take like some extra charisma early. You're going to be able to like really have some interesting boosts if you want them. So you can take this Elven Accuracy, which is really good, or you could go ahead and take like damage boost, which is also really good. You'll be able to, over here at Skill Focus, you'll be able to take where is it? There's an Intimidate here. It is Focused. You'll be able to pick up Focused out of the tree, which is really great. We'll talk about this stuff in a second. Also, as a half elf, you get to take the extra social skill timer, so you basically get 2 Intimidate timers, which is really good. But the main thing is going to be, you're going to be able to take the improved Dilettante, and you're going to want to take the cleric, or the paladin Dilettante. So what that's going to let you do is you're going to be able to pick up a whole bunch of extra to your saving throws. And obviously, it's not something that I worry about too much, because I feel like I'm always going to roll that 1 anyway, no matter how good my saving throws are. But that is not true. You can get your saving throws to a place where they matter, and they matter a lot. And I think being a half-elf and taking the improved Dilettante stuff is a good way to do that. So I'm going to put this build back up in the list of people to vote for when we do our half-elf flies pretty soon. I really hope that it wins, because I think it's going to be a real monster. I think we're going to see, like, I feel like this life was really good, really solid, really fun, but I feel like we'd get even more on the half-elf tree. Again, with the ASMR stuff, we used our lay on hands occasionally. Having to switch packs around, essentially, to be able to lay on hands just felt weird and bad. But there was a lot of times where you got through a fight, your cleric was empty or dead or whatever, and you just went around the corner, switched your packs, lay on hands, switch back again, and moved on, and it got you to the shrine. I felt like it was really good for that. The other thing that was really awkward is these 4 points in Tainted Scholar just kind of like came to me. I don't know if the chat and I were talking about it in particular, like working on getting extra temporary hit points. It was after the point where I picked up the haste spell on the Warlock tree. Do I still have this up? So I can tell you what level it was. So here at level 7 of Warlock is when we got haste. And once we got haste, that is when I kind of went, you know, it'd be great getting temporary hit points all these times that I spam haste. And I was like, oh yeah, you could do that, and it worked out really nicely, I think. So I don't remember if this was before or after I was able to get the Stalwart Defender done, but I think what I ended up doing was putting 5 points in Stalwart Defender just to get the stance in this PRR right here, and then I switched into that. Something else that kind of messed with me a little bit, there was a point where I thought I was going to be getting my PRR was going to jump to a particular number. In this case was 126, and it was only going to 119, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with that. It turns out that this shape vestments bonus, this 5 MMR, maybe it was what it was the MMR, or the MMR was supposed to jump. I made a mistake, and that always applies, and I was trying to do it just when the stance was on. So that was on me. Just know your abilities and powers better than I do, and you'll be fine. But yeah, overall I thought the thing was really good. I had a lot of fun with it. Let's see. Actually, there's one other thing I want to talk about. Weapon choices. So there's not a lot of great daggers in DDO in general, but there's not a lot for when you're leveling up. There's like a big boost here at low levels. So like level 4 you get the Sky Pirate's dagger. At level 8 you pick up the Nightforged Stiletto. If you're like me and you like dagger builds and you end up crafting some sort of green steel weapon, then you get a little bit of an oomph there. But like, you don't get as much of an oomph out of the Barovian's dagger or the Macabre dagger on this build as you do on like a 2-weapon fighting dagger build, for example. You just don't, and it was really noticeable here for me. That being said, it felt really solid having that as an option. Also taking something like the Nightforged Stiletto that has just this massive crit radius on it. So like if you look down here, I'm critting on a 13 to 20. Our blow by blow attack adds an extra 2 to that threat range. So now you're critting on 11 or better when you're hitting this attack. And then on the on point, you're making 2 attacks, and they're increasing it to plus 20 threat range, or sorry, plus 12 threat range, which means you crit on a 2 or better when you fire that off, and that's 2 attacks. The reason that stuff matters, right? Your crit radius, not only the fact that you're doing extra crits, but you have a lot of like interesting things that happen, particularly guard breaking on a critical hit. So, for example, if a Carnage Reaper comes up to you, you can turn around, slam this on point, and you're basically guaranteed in one of those 2 hits you're going to crit. And if you're crit, then all of a sudden he's standing still for a couple of seconds while your guard breaking's going. And that gives you an opportunity to pick up another critical hit in your 3 or 4 attacks. You get a slam along the way. So those things I thought were really, really nice when it came to the guard breaking and the swashbuckling. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks, I guess thanks a lot to the build. I guess we'll throw this in as another like weirdness or disadvantage. I felt like I was consistently incentivized to use weird gear that I picked up along the way that I normally wouldn't use, but it continued to be just so useful for the particular build. So this Ring of Power, for example, has command on it, so it helped with our various charisma skills like UMD, and whatnot, but mostly for Intimidate, right? You're getting an extra Intimidate skill right there. Melee Alacrity right there. You're picking up some armor piercing. So now, again, that's where we're getting to that 66 armor piercing that we picked up along the way. All those things kind of worked into things, including this quality strength. This, again, because strength is our to hit, worked out really nicely. The Black Opal Bracers. This is my magical sheltering item. This also happens to be our ethereal item. This also happens to be heroism, which again is skills. So like it gave me a boost to start with, so I could fire off things like the G8 scroll, stuff like that. And to be honest, because I was wearing this all the time, I hardly use these scrolls of greater heroism. I use these scrolls of greater heroism more often on other people than I did on myself. The Ring of Band of Insightful Commands, similar thing. This quickly became when we switched to our Sharn items, we lost the Profane Well-Rounded bonus that we had previously, and this ring kind of just stepped into that slot naturally, covering that bonus, giving us some extra to hit, giving us quality deadly, and was a good Intimidate item. So like, again, you don't think about some of these things continuing to be good into level 15, level 16, level 17, but they were very good for me the whole way through. Speaking of, this is the first time I ever equipped these boots of the Devil Commander. Quality sheltering, insightful sheltering, some extra insight, all that stuff was really good for me. I obviously didn't use the blue augment slot, and I don't care about the fortification because we just slot 100% fortification and we call it a day. But again, it kind of went in and felt really solid. Similar thing for the precision lenses, giving us our manslayer. The insightful strength did matter, and more action boosts add up. So like everything kind of checked the boxes as we went along. I did end up crafting a item at level 13. As you can tell, it's Spell Sight, insightful sonic damage, and regular sonic damage. If we were to make something of an equivalent item at level 20, right? Or let's just even say level 17, a trinket slot, we would be picking up huge bonuses. All right, where is my? Sorry, I should have probably prepared this a little bit ahead of time. Was it Spell Sight? Is that what I crafted? I think that's what I crafted. Yeah, Spell Sight. That could easily be performed. Spell Sight just happens as the advantage of hitting both of our spells, which is why I did that. And then got 104, and then Insightful. Gives us another 52. And then, of course, at level 20, let's pretend you do a gear up at 20. Those are significant numbers. Chat did ask me, what about the sonic treatment from the House C challenges? I didn't think about it before, but it would also go quite well in this gear slot if you had a series of those ready to go. I didn't, so I crafted something. And it's even potentially good enough that at level 30, I would consider it a little bit here. What is our sonic spell power currently, by the way, just with that current item in place? 324. So again, remember that Sonic not only is the damage that fires off around our aura tick for our pack damage, but also every single time we crit. Remember we talked about all the bonuses that happen when we crit. With Resonant Arms, that also triggers off, and it does scale with spell powers. So that's part of the reason I kind of put a little extra effort into that. Alright, well overall that's the build. I found it to be a lot of fun, really solid. The damage kind of jumped early, but because there's no extra weapon to move into, there's no Nightforged Stiletto-esque equivalent item at level 15. And as near as I can tell, there isn't a great single weapon fighting dagger out there. Like, yeah, you get the Slice and Dice set for 2 weapon fighting guys, and you could craft the Sharn dagger or whatever, but none of that stuff really is as good as just the extended critical out of the Nightforged Stiletto, in my opinion, which is why it actually ended up being my default weapon for most of the game from level 8 on. Alright, well anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my take on the Feybuckler. Again, there's an interesting history on that with going back to Gamer Jeff, kind of introducing this thing back in 2014, 2015, somewhere in that window, and then me taking the build and tweaking it and putting out a revised edition a little bit later in 2015. You can check that out over at samusgarobo.com under Feybuckler, and then of course now re-hitting it 5 years later and falling in love with it all over again. I used this build, the Feybuckler build, to grind out 6 or 7 epic destinies back in 2015 when I was soloing everything and the level cap was still 25. It just went through the content knife through butter, and I feel like it still will probably do that quite well today. If I get an opportunity, I'll do a little bit of screwing around with it in epics, and I will let you know how it feels. But otherwise, I plan on hopefully TRing in the very near future, and maybe we'll be playing this build right away again. I don't know. Alright, if you have any questions, comments, etc., please hit me up in the chat box below. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you need to, you can check us out live at twitch.tv/SamusGarobo pretty much anytime you're awake and playing Dungeons & Dragons. Alright everybody, I hope you have a wonderful time. Enjoy this video. Slam the like, subscribe, follow buttons. We'll see you guys again later. Toodles.